You watch this clip, we're going to play this whole thing out. It's actually longer than the clips we typically play, but it's so important. You need to hear this. Listen to this clip. For those who are just listening on the podcast, this is Will I Am speaking.
Announced a new streaming music initiative, Google Play Music All Access. They're going to be selling subscription music, streaming music on the web. I'm wondering what you think of that model of streaming music on the web. I mean, Spotify, we're seeing more and more of these services. Is this the future of music? Is this just going to be happening for the next few months and years? Or what do you think of initiatives like what Google just announced today?
Honestly, I don't really know what that means, because that they're subscribing to sold music. But what if I made a song and put it on the internet tomorrow? It's Spotify. Spotify doesn't spot that. So, right, we live in this connected, instant, right now world, and those services are cool for songs that were for sale yesterday. Now, just songs to listen to. Google owns YouTube. If I want to hear music, I'm just going on YouTube. So it doesn't really make sense at all. Actually, I know how I listen to music, right? But I also sell music, so it's kind of weird. But I go to YouTube to hear music. I get on my iPad, I go to YouTube, I type it in, and it's there, streaming for free. So it's kind of weird, actually.
Now, as an artist, so how do artists make?
And I got a record for sale.
How do artists make money? How do artists make money off it from that model? I mean, how do you as an artist profit off that when people are making money? Let's see your work for free on services like that.
The dirty little secret is that very, very few artists actually made a really healthy living selling records in the history of music industry, because people forgot that the music industry was always technology. And people forgot that RCA was technology that Americans used in World War I and II. And then RCA became a consumer product, and then bought Victor's talking machine. And it also became our radio. And it's also the reason why artists don't get paid terrestrial radio rights in America, because it was always the lost leader. Here, 2013, if you didn't write the song, you just performed it, you don't get any money when it's played on radio. Now, if you're an act from 1960 and your song's playing on K Earth 101, and right after it is a Depends commercial, because you know exactly who the audience is, older folks, that artist isn't participating in any of the revenue, because America doesn't practice terrestrial radio rights. So you have to look at the origins of the music industry being hardware. Our music was made to sell hardware, to the point that if you sold outside of that circle, you were deemed a sellout. A sellout doesn't mean you change your morals. You sold out of the circle of things you were supposed to sell. Phonographs, record players. We could have been signed a Cadillac. There's radios in Cadillac. But that's not what we were supposed to sell. So artists are supposed to make money when they come up with other things to sell and use their music to sell it. Dr. Dre and Beats, me and I and Plus, or going out and selling out venues. You want to sell out? Sell out the Staples Center. You want to make money? Do your own festival. Write your own songs. Because publishing was the first music industry. You wrote songs, they printed on sheet music, and you sold pianos, trumpets, violins, violas, tubas, oboes. And people came together to play them, and they sold out Carnegie Halls. And architects built cathedrals and theaters. Music is supposed to build bars, and you're supposed to sell other things with it. Until the music industry figures out what we're going to sell hardware, then we are just a hired gun to sell somebody else's stuff.
Bars for sure. What do you think, sir, about what you heard? What stands out to you the most?
I mean, so the first thing that really messed my head up was the music has typically been used to sell hardware, right? So he mentioned how in olden times, yesteryear, it was meant to sell sheet music for different instruments. You know, it makes me think of like the CD era, right? We pushed music to sell CDs and CD players. And then what really made it click for me was, do you remember before like podcasting saved Spotify when they were kind of like on that race to figure out how they were going to monetize and what direction were they thinking about taking. Really hard at one point. They were about to build out some Spotify hardware, right? They were trying to build out some device or something, like some type of like hardware that they could use to tie back to.
Forgot about that.
Damn, we all forgot because podcast came along and flipped that shit. You know what I'm saying? Made them think differently. But it's like, man, even somebody like Spotify was trying to figure out, like, damn, what can we use this music to sell? You know what I'm saying? Like, other than just the streams and the feeling that comes with it. So that part just clicked for me when he said that. Like, I was like, man, I can't believe I had never put that together before. So that was crazy.
That's interesting because it goes back to artists figuring out, how can I make money on this thing? But if the people that you're complaining to aren't making money on it either, even if they're getting a better cut, what can you really say?
Yeah, they're like, we in the same boat as you. The boat is bigger, but we all in the same boat. Like, this music thing isn't profitable the way we all would like it to be. Hey, man, we all wake up and just be super billionaires over just the music alone. Yeah, any company would take that, you know what I'm saying? But that's not the reality of it. Like Will was saying, like, the music is really almost just a marketing vehicle for you.
Not almost,
but yeah, and it's like, it's a vehicle that you just so happen can monetize. It's kind of like, you know, we had a conversation about how content is interesting because you're essentially getting paid to promote yourself, right? Like, Instagram will pay you money for a reel that you posted to promote your music or your show or your tour. So you're essentially getting paid to market. Music and like streaming royalties and things like that is really like a bigger version of that, right? Like, this music is meant to be marketing for your brand overall, so you can go sell t-shirts and tickets and Pop-Tarts and shit like that. But we gonna pay you for it because you did create it, right? It is driving some of these other things, but really you're supposed to be selling this other shit.
See, that's the thing that I find so interesting about the way he presented this, because of course we are now very aware of music being a loss leader for labels as a whole, music being a loss leader even for individual artists, and you should monetize through merch, touring, and all these other things, right? Of course, there's a world where you can have a career that's perfectly built, where you only get streaming and you're getting $10,000 a month off of streaming, and that's all you do, and you're profitable that way because you keep your life kind of tight and you're not trying to grow too much. But of course, even over time, that is going to like die out most likely, right? You'll have your hot period and the numbers will get lower. But like, it's always been that general loss leader. But when you take that outside of the artist and label and look at it for the other products the way he did, that's the part that I find it more interesting, because he talks about using music to sell radios. You just mentioned music to sell CDs. Because I can't directly profit from this music. It almost makes me think of consumption. Can music actually be consumed for the most part without using something else? All right.
Nah, I can think of
That's a weird way to think about it, right?
Like clapping and shit. You know what I'm saying?
I guess, right? Yeah. Clapping and rapping, you know what I mean? Like just straight singing. But once you talk about using a microphone, using a trumpet, right? Using a drum, it's all another device. And then I'm going to market that style of creating music so I can sell that device.
Oh my God. It just clicked again with that, right? I didn't think about that, man. Like, just the selling of the equipment to make the music. It's all meant to drive us back to the same angle, bro.
Just something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really interesting, and it explains so many things why and why music gets set up the way it is. I mean, but yeah, just going back to thinking about just selling the radio is crazy. It's like, oh yeah, you want to be able to check out all these things and listen to this. Well, if you want to experience this culture, you need this device.
Yeah, like,
period.
I know I was just a wee lad during this time, you know what I'm saying? But I assume that period when like digital music, you know, like MP3s and things came out, I imagine that was a very confusing time for the music industry, because that was probably the first time where it was like, damn, we can't put this shit on something super tangible. And then boom, you know, like MP3 players came along, and then, you know, still people had CDs and shit. But I feel like that was probably when they first got like a glimpse of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, damn, like what are we gonna do if this shit becomes intangible, where I can't convince you to buy a CD or a cassette tape because you don't need to? Now we in that shit, right? And it's like, like you said, what devices is it selling? Everybody has a phone, so it's not like music is convincing me to get my iPhone. You know what I'm saying? It's like I'm getting this shit.
They use it like that for a second.
It
though.
did. You know what I'm
They
saying?
did.
Yeah, it did. Like, but now it's kind of like I was gonna get this iPhone anyway.
Right, yeah,
this
now
iPad
that's the new
anyway.
climate. Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna get this laptop anyway. So now it's become, just because of technology, it's like we have all these things that maybe we did value that way back then, but now it's like it's all in one now. You know what I'm saying? My phone, this phone is my TV, my communication device, my music listener. Right. So it's like I'm as a consumer, I'm used to getting like all these different things in this little package.
Right.
Which, as much as it sucks for the artist, does devalue your art. You know what I'm saying? Maybe not to me in particular, but in the grand scheme of things, and the grand cost of, what I got for what I paid for. You know what I'm saying? It's not crazy. But, like Will was saying, that's where the other brand flips come into play. How can you take, this person you attracted through this 10 cents you just made and convince them to go buy, you know what I'm saying, $100 worth of shit from you over the course of the year? Like, how are you going to build it out for yourself? Like that, or to his point, like, how can you, maybe artists need to start asking for portions of some other shit, man. They've been asking for, you know what I'm saying, like equity and portions of the streaming giants. That might need to go out of the hardware, you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, man, I'm an artist. I'm fucking The Weeknd. Kids all over the world want to be a pop singer because of me. I don't know, man. I want this Shure endorsement. You know what I'm saying? I want something out of that. Maybe that's what it turns to. Maybe like more artists start flipping like hardware shit. You know what I'm saying? Things that tied to the brand. I don't think so. It's just me speculating, but somebody out there could do it, bro. It's like when all the like 80s rockers dudes were selling like guitar sticks and guitars. You know what I'm saying? It's like they were able to do it and figure it out. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe every artist can figure it out to some degree, but
let me take a quick second to say, if you're an artist trying to blow your music up, or if you're a manager, a music professional in general, trying to help an artist blow their music up, I have something that's a game changer for you, and it's completely free. As you may know, we've helped multiple artists go from 0 to hundreds of thousands of streams. We've helped multiple artists go from hundreds of thousands to millions of streams, chart on Billboard, go viral, all of that stuff. And we've now made the way we've branded multiple artists and helped them go viral completely free, step by step, in Brandman Network. All you have to do is check out brandmannetwork.com. You apply. It's completely free. But the thing is, we're not going to let everybody in forever. So the faster you apply, the better your chance of getting accepted. Brandmannetwork.com. Check it out. Back to the video.
But I do agree with Will on that. It's like, it's one of those sad things where it's like, as a music artist, you know what I'm saying, enthusiast, as a person that fights with them, I do want them to be paid a lot more for their music, right? And you make more from just the streaming of your music. But then that directly clashes with my consumer brain. And my consumer brain is perfectly fine with paying $9.99 a month for everything, right? And I don't want to rip away my convenience, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like,
what you're fighting?
Yeah, so it's like, what is the healthy medium? Hey, artists, I know that you only making, you know what I'm saying, a Snickers bar per album. So I'm gonna go buy a t-shirt. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go buy some merch for you. I consciously think about things like that. Like, yo, man, I'm already giving you pennies on the dime. I can at least buy a ticket to your show. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can at least, I'm at your show, I can at least buy these $40 socks you got on the table. You know what I'm saying? Like something like that. So I just look at it like, why fight it? Why not figure out how to fix your process to embrace it? Because we have this conversation a lot, but a lot of issues in music tends to be the artist and the industry wants versus consumer behavior and what is most convenient for them. And convenience of consumer is always gonna win. You know what I'm saying? Always gonna win.
Yep. Always, man. That's how TikTok and Spotify got their initial leverage. Speaking to the consumer first, move so fast, have so much consumer leverage. Now the labels got to figure out how to get in there. And then the indie artists who are just trying to get on, they're just going to go to where the consumers are, because that's the only choice you have. Or you can stay where they aren't, but you'll just be one of those people complaining about how that platform is corny.
Yeah.
So like, that's always going to exist. That's always going to exist, because those are just the principles. But hearing this also made me realize how radios were the internet. And I think I've thought about that conceptually before, but not with music specifically in mind. You know what I mean? So if you look at all of these mediums, that music existed in, music, again, was not something that could be experienced without these other conduits, right? So the radio comes along, and that allows me to scale my music experience to other people around the world without being there.
Yeah.
Right? CDs is arguably a more efficient way, right? MP3s, another way, but that comes with the advent of the internet. And the internet is basically the radio, right? Where the music is existing. And then you look at the other point that will.i.am said. He talked about those terrestrial rights. The United States being one of 4 countries, I believe. Maybe China might have this issue, but I think the United States is one of 4 countries that doesn't have its terrestrial rights, right? Now, because of this, the United States does not compensate artists when ads and products are sold on the radio. will.i.am basically mentioned this, right? What does that relate to? Nah, it all goes back to capitalism. No way, bro. You can't just throw that one out there. But I was
always gonna be in my mind.
I was specifically thinking about right now the idea of streaming and making money from the streams, right? Or YouTube and making money from the ads that are shown on your video.
Yeah.
So arguably that becomes a better model than what existed before in terms of radio.
Yeah.
Because like will.i.am said, now I really understand it now that I put it in that analogy. He's saying, I'm going to play this old person's song and then play the Depends because that old person's song is going to attract somebody who is the right customer for the old people diapers, right? All right. YouTube's doing the same thing. You target, we put our ads on the content that our demographic is likely to consume, right? Yeah. Except artists aren't getting paid for that. On YouTube, the people who have the videos are getting paid. You could argue that you should get paid more or not, but he's saying they don't get paid at all for the radio. And I wasn't aware that they were jugging like that.
No, I remember some old video or something I watched a while ago put me on that. I was like, damn. So it really just goes back to the whole, this platform is really just a marketing vehicle for you. It's not meant to make you any money. You know what I'm saying? It's, like you said, it is interesting to think of it that way. Like, it's really like Spotify is that, but a little bit more refined.
Yeah.
You know? Or
same thing.
YouTube is probably the best example of it.
YouTube's probably the best.
Yeah.
Spotify has some aspects of it when you think about the playlist, being a DJ, like all those, the curators, right? So there's a sense of it. And then ultimately, like you mentioned, it got podcasts now, right?
Yeah.
So it has the talk show host and the music. Now they're just separate.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, but then I also look at, man, it's like, you know, it's like getting beat with a big stick versus a little stick. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, it hurts less, but you're still getting beat with a stick.
You still disrespecting.
Yeah, you're still disrespecting. Like, that's what it feels like, bro. That's what it always feels like, you know? So, but even putting in that terms of radio just makes you think. Like, artists like will.i.am is probably hyped for his shit. Like, cause actually in the clip, I just thought about it. It was funny because they were saying like Google Play was new. You know what I'm saying? Did you catch that? Like, it was like Google Play was getting ready.
Yeah. So this is, I think he mentioned 2013. So I think they were in 2013 at that moment.
Yeah. So artists that kind of grew up in that traditional system, I would imagine have to like this to some degree. You know what I'm saying? Like the ecosystem. Because it's like, man, I damn near get paid off of everything. Yes, micropayments to a degree. But there's very few things that my artistry touches that I don't get paid off of. You know
well, see, that's why the catalog investments have been so high.
Yeah.
Right? Because we know, like we talked about the last episode, or no, maybe a couple episodes ago, that one, more and more people are going to use streaming. So there's going to be more and more people streaming, which means there's going to be more money in it. But then two, technology is going to be able to track this music more and more across all these different platforms, places, and spaces. So you think about how much music has been consumed without it being paid for. And now I'm able to track that because we know this thing is like probably one of the highest consumed things in the world.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's a time when you could be a DJ in a club and no one knows that you're playing that music in terms of the record label. unless you report it. And that's a lot of people aren't doing that whole type of thing, right?
Yeah.
So now the DJ is playing it through some platform, and then you see the streams coming through. Or what's happening a lot of days, people just playing shit off of Spotify, and the streams are coming through right there. So you were not getting accounted for when it came to those streams back in the day. So yes, the capturing is ridiculous. But again, I think to Will I Am's point, you're probably excited about it unless you look at that big picture where he's probably like, I'm still getting underpaid. Or he's just like, the overall climate of it is messed up.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah, maybe when the tech gets to the point that it can, in terms of like just tracking everything, maybe people will feel a lot better about it. But the problem becomes who's paying for it.
Exactly.
That's a lot of fucking money.
Exactly.
So of course you want that money as a label to track that, but then people start to say, well shit, I'm just not gonna stream this music.
Yeah, because the stream has been generous, but we got to pay per like listen. Like imagine like, you know, like you said, you play, to your point, you play a song in a room full of 100 people. Technically 100 people consume that music, but you pay for one, as if one person consumed it, right? We had to pay out for all of those 100 people listening, bro. It would be crazy. But so it's never gonna be, the system is never gonna be perfect. It's never gonna be clean, you know. And from my just, you know, personal historical research of certain things in music, bro, I be thinking like we in, you know, a pretty good time in terms of, like I said, we getting beat with a little stick, you know what I'm saying? It's the least we can say.
Yeah.
Like the stick is shrunk in the last like 20, 30 years, you know what I'm saying?
I'm gonna pause on that and probably come back at the end of this conversation. Next statement.